Morgan Stanley has officially updated their guidelines, and it's looking like Strategy and Metaplanet could get kicked out of their indexes. And at this stage, it's looking very likely that $2.8 billion of MSTR would be dumped once this becomes official. But I think the more important questions are, of course, why is this happening now? What does this mean for the price of Strategy? And more importantly, for everyone else and Bitcoin? And I think the timing is very interesting. Does the launch of all of these Wall Street Bitcoin products and the recent moves into the IBIT Bitcoin ETF have anything to do with this? Or is this just a blatant attack on Strategy and all of the other Bitcoin treasury companies? There is something to be said about this. And really the framing is really interesting to me. They are calling this kind of a non-operational move here, and I'll get into that. So anyways, what am I talking about? Let's get into it. So I'm using a block to give you guys the basic coverage. I will show you the PDF and what they're looking at, but Strategy and Metaplanet could face MSCI index removal under a new proposal. Now, I do want to remind you here that JP Morgan said this over a year ago in November. Well, I guess it's not a year ago. It's about 9 months ago. So here, remember, JP Morgan was saying that Strategy should get delisted from the MSCI index. Saylor responded to that. That was one of the big sagas. And if you were around at the time and you were watching closely, that was the time that Strategy really got beat up in terms of price, just on the rumors that this could happen. So now it looks like they are on the chopping block, and it's, hate to say it, most likely they're probably going to get delisted from the MSCI index, which is the Morgan Stanley Corporate International Index, which is basically like a world index of stocks that you should invest in. But anyways, coming back here, let's check this out. So MSCI proposed a new eligibility screen for non-operating companies that could result in Strategy and Metaplanet being removed from its global investable market indexes. Now, before I even go further, I think it's very interesting that they use that framing, non-operating companies. Now, remember what 21 Capital just said this week. I think it was, Tuesday or Wednesday, that they are not considering themselves now, or at least moving forward since Jack Mallers left, a Bitcoin treasury company, but a Bitcoin operating company. And I don't know if this was preemptive for this idea, but we are obviously seeing an evolution of the Bitcoin treasury space. As we covered all of last year, Bitcoin Treasury was the new hype cycle. You could argue that it was kind of the ICO bubble of the 2025 bull run. Sorry, I thought I said something different on the date. Where, as we're all seeing, either there's a few things that are going on. Either there's not enough space for a lot of Bitcoin Treasury companies, a la the pure Bitcoin play like Strategy, AKA, you just buy Bitcoin, you take people's money to buy Bitcoin, you expect a 30% pump, you give them that 12% spread, or rather you give them 12% and then you take the spread as profit for your company. Either that is the case that there's not that much space for more basically Strategy copycats, or people don't really want Bitcoin treasuries, that, there's not really space for these at all, that these Bitcoin treasury playbooks aren't really a good business model to begin with. Now, I think I probably lean a little more towards the first part, where there's probably only going to be a handful of strategies. If that, it's going to be Strategy, maybe Metaplanet. Maybe there's a Strategy in every different market around the world, or maybe not every market around the world, but in the major players, there's probably going to be one or a couple of these in every big market. But is there space for all of the Strategy copycats? It's looking like that's probably not the case. Unless you differentiate yourself from Strategy, you're probably not going to be able to catch up to what Saylor has done with Strategy. Now, I think that's why it's an interesting phrase of words here, an interesting choice of words. As we heard, 21 Capital came out and said, hey, we're not a Bitcoin treasury company. We're going to become a Bitcoin operating company, which is the whole idea of needing cash flow. Essentially, the difference would be, I'm not just taking your money to buy Bitcoin and giving you back a little bit, but you invest in a Bitcoin operating company because we are trying to essentially get a bunch of Bitcoin companies that are profitable, and as the mother company, we are going to have a huge Bitcoin balance sheet, but we are looking for cash flow positive businesses, which when you think from a individual perspective, from a small business owner, you obviously can't just like buy Bitcoin, hold it, and that is your own business. That's why we're seeing Strategy sell Bitcoin. You have to have cash flow coming in. You have to have an operating business underlying it. And yes, adding Bitcoin to your balance sheet is a good thing for you personally, but just buying Bitcoin and essentially being like a credit loan or like a bank, probably not going to work for a lot of companies, which is why before I even break into all the details, I found it very interesting that the Morgan Stanley index basically said the same thing. These non-operating businesses are no longer going to be a part of the index that they do, which is, look, actually, I was talking with Sophie before I went live, and all we could really boil this down to is, man, Bitcoin's getting such a beating right now. We have the hardware wallet hacks and leaks. We have the Clarity Act failing. Now Strategy's in some more heat about, all of the the Wall Street institutions are attacking Bitcoin treasuries. It's been a brutal bear market. Price is 50% off. Man, what a bear market. What a bear market. Anyways, let's get into this. So, index provider MSCI has opened a consultation that could remove Strategy and Metaplanet from its global investable market indexes under a proposed methodology for identifying non-operating companies. Again, I think that is the key word here. According to MSCI's latest consultation, a simulation using May 2026 data showed Strategy, Metaplanet, and a uranium investment company, Yellow Cake, would be deleted from the MSCI ACWI IMI under the new proposal. Sorry, Yellow Cake. I'm a millennial kid growing up with Dave Chappelle, and I'm just thinking of the Yellow Cake Black President skit. Anyways, the proposal broadens MSCI's review beyond digital asset treasury companies. This one is interesting, and I'll get back to that in a little bit. Earlier in January, MSCI said it would not immediately exclude such companies for the time being and would instead examine non-operating companies more broadly. JP Morgan analysts in January estimated last year, or rather, I guess this was November, that removing Strategy from the MSCI indexes could trigger about $2.8 billion in passive outflows. So that would be brutal for the price of MSTR. Though, to be clear here, this doesn't mean that Strategy would have to sell $2.8 billion of Bitcoin. So in terms of you as just a pure Bitcoin holder, this doesn't mean that Strategy would have to sell $2.8 billion because of being delisted from the MSCI. What it would mean is the common stock MSTI would probably get pummeled. Now, when is this going to take place? That's where, if you're an MSTR holder, it gets a little more complicated. I guess the short of it, it's not going to happen tonight, but it can happen overnight if this does happen. Okay, so going further, here is maybe I'll pull up the, here's the PDF. So we'll start here. MSCI consultation on eligibility of non-operating companies for the MSCI Global Investable Market Indexes methodology. Wow, can't speak. Anyways, whatever. So non-operating companies, common non-operating companies characteristics. Create value by accumulating and holding non-operating assets. So as you can tell, they are basically framing Bitcoin as a, quote, non-operating asset, which could really go into the classic FUD of Bitcoin. It's like there's no yield, there's no cash flows on Bitcoin. It's an unproductive asset. All it does is sit on your balance sheet. And as we've seen in the last couple of months, or rather maybe last couple of years, there's still this view amongst Wall Street institutions, even though they are launching, some of them are launching Bitcoin products, there's still this view essentially that Bitcoin is kind of like a toxic asset on your balance sheet. It's non-productive. It doesn't really do anything. It just sits there, and yeah, when number goes up, like you get some profits, but in reality, from their perspective, in reality, it doesn't really do anything. At least that's what they're saying. Now, Secondly, spend and generate little cash from running an actual business. This one, I mean, technically Strategy has an underlying business. Technically Metaplanet has an underlying business. You know, Strategy is business analytics software. Metaplanet is technically a hotel chain, but they just buy Bitcoin. All right. Like that's literally what those companies do. They just buy Bitcoin. So maybe they don't fail on this second point. Anyways, third point, performance driven by market movements, not other revenue generating activities. That would definitely fall in line for Bitcoin. And then relying on external capital and not their own operations to grow. In terms of Strategy and Metaplanet, that's they don't pass that one either. They are totally reliant on external capital. Well, maybe not totally reliant, but the majority is reliant on external capital. So here is where you start to see exactly, and maybe this is the biggest kind of smoking gun. It's in this 13-page PDF. Here is the impact of the methodology proposal. Applying the proposed screen to the MSCI, ACWI, IMI index as of May 2026 would result in 3 deletions. Additionally, 3 companies would be placed on a new public watch list maintained for this eligibility rule. Now, here is where Strategy and Metaplanet get named specifically. So Strategy deleted. This Yellow Cake PLC from the UK deleted, and then Metaplanet from Japan deleted as well. Now, this is where you look into what is the timeline here. When would this potentially happen? So here's a little asterisk here, and it goes: current index constituents failing the core and exclusion screens based on latest filings, but not failing for 2 consecutive years would be placed on a new public watch list. Under the proposal, they would then be removed from the index if they were to fail the screens again the following year. So it looks like they're essentially saying, within a year, this is probably going to take place. That MSTR and Metaplanet are most likely going to get excluded from the MSCI index. So the storm isn't here yet for Strategy and Metaplanet. But within a year, will anything fundamentally change for those companies? Most likely not. They are pretty dug deep on what their role is and what their kind of company perspective is and what their plans are for the future. I'm almost positive from just what you're reading here that they are going to get excluded from the MSCI. Now, does that really mean that Strategy's over? If you're an MSTR holder, like it's time to fire sale? Not at all. I think Strategy and even Metaplanet will most likely be able to survive this event. Now, obviously, anything can change in a year, and not so much about what these guidelines are saying would change, because they seem pretty staunch on this. I mean, they could potentially rewrite this again within a year, but I think the idea is more so that the perspective around Bitcoin within a year could potentially change, where maybe this doesn't really have an effect and people aren't necessarily going to fire sale their MSTR. Because when you look at this, there's also an interesting kind of caveat. And I think this is where this looks like a direct attack on Bitcoin itself. And of course, Bitcoin treasury companies at large as well. Because this also, in this index, it has a bunch of real estate investment trusts, which are literally essentially the same thing. It's just the different asset. The only difference between an REIT and a Bitcoin treasury company is the underlying asset, which is, real estate has a structurally stronger view from institutional investors. Whereas Bitcoin is still this speculative nascent kind of, some people might call it an asset. Some people might not even consider it an asset or a commodity. And so this looks like a specific attack on Bitcoin itself. Now, obviously, on the surface, it's framed as just an attack on Strategy. And if you're a Bitcoiner, is it really an attack on Bitcoin if you're not holding a Bitcoin treasury company? It gets into a little gray area there. But this looks like a very, very specific attack on what Bitcoin is viewed at. Because again, these rules don't necessarily apply if it's another asset that has a stronger standing in the view of the investors out there. So Morgan Stanley MSCI index looks like they are specifically attacking Bitcoin here, or rather specifically attacking strategy because of Bitcoin. And as we saw, it's been a 9-month saga on this. JP Morgan came out, said that, hey, strategy is going to get delisted. It turned out to be FUD. Though now, 9 months later, maybe they knew this was going to potentially happen. Excuse me, guys. And the timing is very interesting. Again, considering that we are seeing literally yesterday, JP Morgan by 400, or rather it was disclosed, it was leaked in the SEC filings that JP Morgan bought $400 million of the BlackRock IBIT Bitcoin ETF. So the timing looks a little suspicious to me. It almost really seems as if the Wall Street institutions are looking to headhunt strategy and Michael Saylor. It really does look like they are trying to do reputational damage to strategy because they're all going into the Bitcoin ETFs. Like if they were just doing this, maybe you could make the case that, oh, okay, they don't really like Bitcoin. But since they're all adding exposure to the paper Bitcoin market or the ETF Bitcoin market, and at the same time, they're trying to hurt strategy, it's almost like they're looking at Saylor's playbook and being like, no, we got to do whatever we can to get to 1 million Bitcoin before strategy does, because then, the cat's out of the bag. Now, there is a conversation to be had here in terms of the, as Simon Dixon always calls it, the financial industrial complex. You could look at this and be like, oh, it looks like the traditional players of Wall Street are trying to attack the new kids on the block. That's what it kind of looks like when you laid out how I just did. Now, there could be the other argument, which is just it's kayfabe or kayfabe. I always mess that up. Where they are making a scapegoat out of Saylor right now, but at the same time, they are essentially including Saylor into the Wall Street institutions, financial industrial complex. So who knows exactly what's going on? I can't really mind read what JP Morgan and BlackRock and all them are doing. We could only really see the paper trail. But that is a very interesting timing. Literally the day after we find out that JP Morgan and almost every financial institution is adding to the Bitcoin ETFs on their balance sheet, we get this news that Morgan, remember yesterday? Wait, no, that was Goldman Sachs. Sorry. Was it? Yeah, no, it was Goldman Sachs yesterday who bought an ETF. But it is interesting. They're piling in the Bitcoin ETF. They're attacking strategy. It does seem as if they're trying to stop the liquidity find its way into MSTR and further into Stretch right now. And they want everyone into the Bitcoin ETFs. Just some thoughts here. But anyways, we did see a response from Strategy this morning as well. So Strategy at 8 a.m. this morning, they go, digital assets are assets. Index providers should measure markets, not decide which asset companies are allowed to own. MSCI's proposal puts it out of step with regulators, markets, and its own customers. Bitcoin doesn't need MSCI, neither does Strategy. Kind of a strong move there. But you can see that even in the official Strategy tweet here, it does hit at the heart of this MSCI consultation proposal, where it looks like they are specifically targeting Bitcoin here, and they don't view Bitcoin as an asset. Because again, if you look at some of the companies that are in there, there is some real estate trust in there, investment trusts, REITs that are literally doing the same thing. It's just with real estate. So they are definitely picking winners and losers here, where it's like, hey, well, real estate's a real asset, but this Bitcoin thing is not a real asset. So when it comes to these Bitcoin treasury companies, like we don't want anything to do with them. We're going to kick it out of the index. We're not going to give it the passive inflows. We're not going to help them win, essentially. But, the real estate, that's fine. The credit bundling products out there. No, that's cool. The very things that started the '08 financial crisis, no, that's chill. But this new Bitcoin thing, this new market, we can't touch that. So as you can tell, and I think I've been making this case for a while on this show, that we are seeing a lot of institutional interest into Bitcoin. Obviously, a lot of Bitcoin products have been created by Wall Street. But still, the fundamental thinking from a lot of the institutions is exactly what strategy just said. Essentially, the opposite of this, that Bitcoin is not a real asset. Yes, it may be called a digital asset, but it's not a real asset. I think they how do you put it? I don't want to necessarily say, let's do the old boys on Wall Street. They're looking at Bitcoin. And I think they still have this view that Bitcoin isn't a real thing. They might be begrudgingly launching some Bitcoin products. They might even dabble a little bit in Bitcoin, but it's more of like a novelty. But you can see that there's still a lot of interest coming from the institutional investor into Bitcoin. Again, Bitcoin has had a rough, let's say, 5 years since 2021. It hasn't really done what we all expected it to do. As I was talking with Jeff Ross and a lot of other people, it does seem to have some connection with the business cycle. We haven't really expanded since 2021. And so I think maybe what we're seeing is a lot of people that are chasing fiat gains, that are institutional-esque investors. They're looking at Bitcoin and they're probably wondering if Bitcoin can get the gains that it did in the past. Even though Bitcoin has had a rough 2 years, Bitcoin is still the best performing asset the last 17 years. Maybe last year we kind of lost out to gold. This year we're down a little bit. We're actually, I was looking at this yesterday and it was brutal. It's like S&P 500's up 13, 14%. Bitcoin's down like 23 plus. And I'm like, man, what a brutal year. Like, I was hoping it was a little closer than that, but no, we're getting cooked. All right. But with that said, I think a lot of people are still looking at Bitcoin and thinking, okay, maybe this 30% CAGR will still play out. Maybe Bitcoin will still be the best performing asset for the next 10, 15 years. Maybe the gains that we previously seen Bitcoin had are not over entirely, and hence why they want to get some action in the Bitcoin space. Now, there is still an ideological pushback against Bitcoin because for most people, it's still this early speculative asset. It's really untested. Again, you can't physically touch it. There's no yield. There's no cash flow to Bitcoin. So how do I invest it based on the framework that we use from our institutional trade book, which is the standard, like, okay, is it physical? Is it a commodity? Is it an asset? Does it have cash flow? Is there a yield on top of it? Since Bitcoin is such an untraditional asset, I think the ideological response for a lot of people is just to neglect it and be like, it's not even a real thing. It doesn't really check any of the boxes that we're used to investing. And I think we're still going through that process where products are being launched. Bitcoin's not going away. It really is, like, if you look at the on-chain metrics, and maybe the hash rate's down a little bit, but if you look at kind of the foundation of Bitcoin, it is in a stronger position than it's ever been. Now, of course, the price is down 50%. It's been brutal bear market. There's, in the last, month or so, it's been just catastrophe after catastrophe. Like, we're getting beat up right now, okay? We're getting cooked right now, but we are starting to see that the Bitcoin game theory is playing out in real time. The only way to win is to play idea is playing out worldwide. And if you're starting to, or rather, if you're continuing to fight Bitcoin, then you will be left behind. Now, obviously, everyone is kind of chasing the AI hype bubble, and Bitcoin's just been wholly ignored right now. But hey, we'll have our day in the sun here soon. All right, guys, it's gonna happen. It's got to happen at some point. It's coming up. But yeah, guys, another black eye. Is this not just bear market things? Are you not entertained? This is like the quintessential bear market right now. Honestly, I've been around for a couple of bear markets, and even though the price has been pretty sturdy right now. I think it's at 63. There was like 62.9 or something before I started the show. We'll see if I'm taking the price because I'm yapping right now. But the sentiment that we've seen in this bear market, even though it's been a less aggressive dip here, a less aggressive discount on the price, it's been a brutal bear market. And here we are seemingly at the end of the bear market, and we just get another kick in the teeth here, but the price hasn't really moved too much. So again, tentatively bullish on this whole kind of story here. The fact that all right, let's pull back a little bit. Remember 2020, actually, since Saylor was really buying Bitcoin and we were in these smaller bull runs like 2021 and 2024 to 2025, any amount of good news coming out of Strategy, Strategy bought Bitcoin, or Strategy does this, Strategy launches a new product, it seems like the price would just continue to go up. Now we're just getting all this bad news and the price is basically just like shrugging it off. It's essentially like, how much lower do you want me to go? Now, obviously, there's still a chance of one more last leg down. But the fact that we're getting a lot of bad news, as Matt Hogan was explaining yesterday, as I've been kind of saying all throughout this whole week, it really does make me feel as if, like, this is it. We're gonna start pumping, boys. Now is the time to get, like, if you were the smart one and you sold your Bitcoin at 126 or 120 or 115. I think now is the time to redeploy capital and get back into the market, start to build your position again. I'm not saying to capitulate all of your Bit or your fiat. I'm not saying to smash buy everything right now, but I would be working on a plan from now until probably the end of September to where you want to deploy all of the capital that you have sitting on the sidelines. I think now is the time to re-enter. If you are one of those that likes to sell at the top and buy at the bottom, it's so easy to say, and shouts out to the smart guys here that are able to do it. But I think now is the time to look at these prices, look at the fact that the Bitcoin bad news is not really affecting the price too much. Start to DCA again back in, even if it dips more. You buy on those dips. It really does feel like this bear market is coming to an end. Again, everyone's been saying it'll be over by October. They haven't really clarified whether it's the beginning of October or the end of October. So worst case scenario, a month or two or 2.5 months, and we're officially done. So you want to get your position right now, or if you are like me, and you have no dollars sitting on the sideline, you want to stack as hard as you can for the next 2.5 months. You want to try to spend the least amount of money to survive right now so that you can deploy as much money into Bitcoin. That's what you should be doing. That's what the game plan is. Nothing is moving the price that deep. Yes, it's down a little bit. It's down since yesterday, or actually since Tuesday. Wait, no, Wednesday. But it's really like, guys, zoom out. We've been a stable coin for a year and a half. Bitcoin's took a beating. And it's just like, it wants to smoke. Bitcoin wants to smoke right now. It's like, give me some more punches. We ain't going nowhere. And I just can't wait. I can't wait till we start ripping again. Can we start ripping again? All right, guys. Anyways, I think I metaphorically beat the dead horse. So looks like Saylor's not really, or rather Strategy, it's not really concerned about this. Though it could, in the short term, be pretty bad and shake a lot of people out if you are an MSTR holder. Now, obviously, that would play out in about a year. So in the meantime, I don't know if you want to trade the MSTR or get out of it, but I know a lot of people are probably underwater in their MSTR positions, but we will see what happens in a year, because I'm pretty sure that nothing is going to change in terms of these MSTR consultation, what are they calling it, obligations or priorities. So Metaplanet strategy most likely going to be out of the MSCI, and that would hurt you as an MSTR common stock holder. Now, does it hurt strategy long term? I don't think so. I think strategy is going to be around. Now, am I the biggest fan of Bitcoin Treasury companies? Not really, but I don't see a world where Sailor, or rather strategy, blows up. If you've been watching all of the strategy moves they've been making, they are, again, playing on longer time frames. Everything they're doing is to shore up their product so that if they do get into another bear market like scenario, they are going to be fine, fully capitalized. Like, strategy is probably stronger than it's ever been, even though the price has been, of the MSTR stock, has been pretty bad. So strategy, I think, is going to be around. Will this be, when it officially comes out that this happens, will this be short-term pain for the price? Yeah, without a doubt. It could be an overnight just straight up nuke, but nothing's happening yet. Again, the timing of all of it is super interesting. We get Clarity Act fail. Now we're getting more strategy FUD. And at the same time, we're seeing the biggest Wall Street institutions go balls deep into Bitcoin ETFs. You can make a really good case that they're really trying to headhunt strategy. They're really trying to take Sailor out of the market. They're doing their best to not only liquidate strategy, but also do reputational damage with Michael Saylor. They're trying to make him look like an idiot. Dude, actually, wait, one more thing. This just came to mind. Remember, I think it was this week, but Saylor tweeted, was it last week or this week? I forget. But he just recently tweeted, he said strategy is the JP Morgan of Bitcoin or crypto or whatever. Yo, maybe Jamie Dimon didn't like that tweet so much. Wow, now we're really going full Rustin on the show. Okay, we're going full Rustin now. Saylor tweets, we are the JP Morgan of crypto. Now we're seeing MSCI essentially say, hey, we're going to kick out strategy. We're seeing Jamie Dimon or JP Morgan now trying to amp up their Bitcoin shares in IBIT. They're obviously the authorized participant of the BlackRock ETF. The very ETF they're buying, they are the authorized participant of it. Saylor might have kicked the hornet's nest there. Not the cyber hornet's nest, the hornet's nest here. Wow, I didn't even think about that before the show. Dude. Jamie's heated. Jamie Dimon is heated at Saylor, and he's pulling the strings to hurt strategy as much as possible. That's the final verdict. That's my final verdict on this. All right, I'm gonna keep it moving. What do I have on here? Oh, I didn't download it. Okay, maybe I can download it. I saw this clip that the Simply Bitcoin account tweeted. It's by Jordi Visser. And it's an interesting take on AI and Bitcoin right now, especially after everything we've seen in the last couple of days. And then we have actually two news stories here. I'm going to do like a normal show. We're going to do 4 blocks. We have interesting news coming out of Taiwan. Also for the Tether truthers out there, kind of in disbelief right now after yesterday's news. And guys, there's a pretty good case to be made that the 10 a.m. slams are back on the table. So, dude, a culmination of attacks happening right now on Bitcoin. They really don't want to see us win, but it is what it is. Bitcoin will survive. So on that note, I'll be right back. Quick commercial break. Here Here's the part that nobody says out loud. Buying Bitcoin on an exchange and leaving it there isn't buying Bitcoin. It's buying an IOU. And the last decade has been a masterclass in what happens when those exchanges don't deliver on their promises.
Bitcoin Well is a self-custody Bitcoin platform. That means that when you buy Bitcoin, it goes straight to your self-custody Bitcoin wallet. You actually own it from the very first transaction. They're available both in the United States and Canada. Pricing is transparent, straightforward, and no nonsense. And if you're buying a larger amount of Bitcoin, Bitcoin Well Infinite gives you concierge-level support through a dedicated executive Bitcoin advisor, premium help for when it actually matters.
You can also stack a little extra through the referral and wishing well rewards. A nice bonus on top of the owning your own Bitcoin thing. So go to bitcoinwell.com/simply and sign up for the Bitcoin Well portal today and buy Bitcoin you actually own. Paper burns, paper floods, paper fades. If your seed phrase is written on paper, it's not really backed up. It's waiting to disappear. Stampseed's DIY kit lets you hammer your seed words directly into commercial grade titanium. Fireproof, crush-proof, waterproof, and permanent. Once your words are in the metal, they aren't going anywhere. Use code SIMPLY at stampseed.com for 15% off anything in the store. That's stampseed.com, code SIMPLY. Damn, YouTube chat's going hard on themselves today. Wait. Not like that. Not like that. I'm sorry. Pause. Rumble chat's being nice. Let's go. Rumble. Look, I'm a Rumble chat maxi today. They're being nice. Anyways, the current Bitcoin price in fiat cuckbucks is $63,170 per Bitcoin, or 63,170 US dollar coupons per Bitcoin. The discount from all-time high is 49.9. Market cap still at 1.27. And the block height for real Bitcoin is 962,459. Someone in the chat is doing the Luke coin block height as the real block height in here. No. We are big Bitcoin maxis, and the oh wow, dude, my ears started ringing. That's crazy. We are big Bitcoin maxis, and the current block height is 962,459. All right. So I saw our, as in the Simply Bitcoin Twitter account, post this clip from Mark Moss and Jordi Visser. And I found the framing pretty interesting. And I don't think obviously, we've said this in many ways, and we probably all have heard this. But I think after what we saw with the token wars, I think it's an interesting short clip to watch. So let's watch that real clip quick, and I'll kind of unpack it from my word.
Bitcoin is the sum of the ecosystem right now of crypto, but eventually it will be the sum of the ecosystem of tokens, and all things will be tokens. So Bitcoin becomes the sum of every asset that you have in some framework. And at the end of the day, that's really what the S&P 500 is. You ask anyone that invested in 2010, their biggest mistake was not investing in the S&P 500. If you invested in venture, if you invested in all, and you add up the 15 years, almost nothing is beating the S&P 500. Nothing is beating the NASDAQ. So you may have for 3 months, for 6 years, for 9 years, but once you got to 2022, all of these things have kind of worked out that no assets are actually beating not only Bitcoin, but they weren't beating the S&P 500. They certainly weren't beating the NASDAQ. And I think over time, you'll see the NASDAQ and S&P start to give up the ghost to Bitcoin. And that has been the moment that I thought would be the acceleratory point, is once AI gets there. And that's why I say the purest AI trade is the only thing that AI can't destroy. The only thing it can't destroy is Bitcoin, in my opinion.
Oh, man, I love it. Look, I'm only laughing because obviously AI can't destroy Bitcoin, but in the context of the Bitcoin Red Team and what's the spiral one, Bitcoin Loop, it's been a pretty good battle. It's been a pretty good battle finding all of the Bitcoin bugs through AI. Obviously, it sparked a whole new conversation, but I do like just the general framing, because we are in this world right now where AI is getting all the attention, right? Like AI is going to take our job. AI is taking all of our jobs. AI is going to fundamentally change the world. We've seen it on Twitter. All of the AI maxis out there, they're laughing and pointing at Bitcoin and like, you're missing out on all these gains. Like Bitcoin is boring. Bitcoin hasn't moved. And I think all of us are maybe we're coping. Not gonna lie, maybe we are coping a little bit here, but we're all just kind of waiting for the AI kind of bubble to lose some steam. And where is all that money going to go? I doubt it's going to go into dollars again. Now, some of it could, but the majority, the bulk of that capital most likely won't go into dollars and treasuries. Could find its way into gold, but I'd venture to guess that if you are an AI maximalist or an AI futurist, you understand technology, you understand the world is digital, you understand the impact of new technologies. I think a lot of that capital will find its way into Bitcoin. And so just the idea of you want to invest in things that AI can't destroy. It's an interesting framing, again, considering what happened 2 weeks ago with the cold card hack. That like we are in an interesting transition phase where we know AI is going to be with us. Do we know the final impact that AI will have on society? Not necessarily, but we know it's not going away. It's like what I always say about the internet. Anyone that thinks we're going to go back into a world without internet, like, I want what you're smoking. All right. I don't see how you can view where we currently are and where the trajectory of society is going and think we're going to go back into like a barter system without the internet. Like, what? Look, I'm not bashing on anyone. Love the Amish, but like, we're not all going to be living in an Amish society. Okay. The world we live in will always have the internet. Even if something catastrophic happened, we would spin up the internet again. Now, obviously, it's easier said than done, but we live in a world with the internet. We live in a interconnected world. Now, on top of that, I think there is also 2 other technologies that we're never going to go back and live in a world without them. Obviously, you could probably guess what I think, since that's the name of the show. One is Bitcoin. The other one is, I think, AI as well. And I'm not even the biggest AI bull. But I think, as we all have known and experienced, we all use AI every single day. Whether it's on your phone with Siri, whether it's in your Google searches, whether you're, vibe coding with Claude or Chat GBT, I don't even know what's on now, like 5 or 6, or Fable, or as we saw the Kimi K3 release. I think we are living in a world where AI is going to be a part of it, has already been a part of it, and we're not going to go back into a world without it. Now, if AI does get to a level that everyone is talking about how it can, then this thesis here, this investment thesis, I think is a very interesting one. Invest in things that AI can't break. Now, that obviously entails, analogs and commodities and maybe like blue collar work. And then on top of that, there is like Bitcoin and various technologies and software such as, what Bitcoin can do, or cybersecurity stuff. Like things that maybe push back against AI are probably good investments. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about Bitcoin. As we all saw, AI can't fundamentally break Bitcoin. Well, yet. Keyword yet. But I think it's a good framing. I think a lot more people are going to start thinking of this. It's like it sounds very simple when you hear it, but I think it's a pretty novel framing that I haven't heard anymore. Hammers, yeah. Invest in hammers. No, don't. Smoke signals better than internet. Y'all are tripping. All right. Anyways, let's get into a few news stories here. I'll be right back.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Ledin. Here's something most Bitcoin holders never figure out until it's too late. You're sitting on wealth you can't touch without selling. Ledin fixes that. Bitcoin-backed loans. You keep your stack, you get cash. And they just introduced their lowest rates ever. No complexity, no fine print. The larger the loan, the lower the rate. These new rates apply to all new loans, refinances, and renewals. You'll see all the rates up front before you apply. The new, lower rates come with Ledin's gold standard protection. Your Bitcoin remains custodied and is never lent out for interest. Perfect 8-year track record of keeping clients' assets safe. Auto top-ups, LTV alerts, and partial repayments to keep you in control. Repay whenever you want with zero penalties or monthly payments. Ledin's perfect $10 billion track record through every market cycle in the last 8 years speaks for itself. Don't choose between a great rate and the safety of your Bitcoin. Get both at Ledin. If you ever thought, what happens to my Bitcoin if something happens to me? Or what happens if I lose my phone? You're not alone. For a lot of people, the biggest barrier to self-custody isn't buying Bitcoin. It's the fear of making a mistake. And that's why I like BitKey and I recommend it to my friends and family. BitKey is a Bitcoin wallet built for real life, not just for day one, but for everything that happens in between. Lost devices, upgrades, accidents, and long-term ownership. There's no seed phrase to write down and worry about losing, and no single point of failure that can lock you out of your Bitcoin forever. What really stands out about BitKey is the peace of mind. Recovery is built in, inheritance is built in. It's a complete self-custody system built by the team behind Square and Cash App, designed to make holding your own Bitcoin simpler and safer. Take self-custody of your Bitcoin today using BitKey. Go to bitkey.world and use promo code SIMPLY for 10% off your new BitKey. That's bitkey.world, promo code SIMPLY.
All right. Sorry. We were talking about Mark McGuire and Sammy Sosa in the chat, man. I had a throwback. I don't know if you guys were around then. Side tangent, whatever. Remember the McGuire Sosa era when you played the baseball video game and you would hit like 700-foot home runs? Man, that was so fun. All right. Anyways. I'm getting nostalgic. So wait. China trying to ban Bitcoin again? Well, to be clear, it's not China. It's Taiwan. But what do they say? 2 countries, 1 rule, I think is the framing, or 2 nations, 1 rule, where the island of Taiwan is basically the same as the mainland China. You know, Taiwan's basically the CCP. Well, we have seen interesting stuff happen in the past, but this just came out this morning. I'm gonna fly through this one because I do want to hit on the Tether stuff as well, because that is interesting. Okay, hold your tomatoes. So Taiwan. Yo, it's Friday. I'm out, dude. The poll of the weekend is calling, and I'm already checking out. Taiwan cabinet backs tougher crypto money laundering rules. It's still in a draft, but they drafted amendments targeting unregistered virtual asset services and unauthorized stablecoin issuance. There's 2 folds on this, right? One, this unregistered virtual asset services. So you basically need the CCP's approval to be considered a registered virtual asset service, or put another way, like you got to cut KYC with the CCP, or else they can essentially shut down your exchange or your Bitcoin crypto firm and slap you with money laundering charges. Crazy. And then unauthorized stablecoin issuance. They're trying to stop dollar stablecoins. They don't want the Chinese people to use dollar stablecoins. So hey, dude, dollar milkshake stablecoin theory playing out. Anyways. Let's read a little bit. The cabinet on Thursday approved draft amendments that would bring unregistered crypto services and unauthorized stablecoin issuance within the scope of Taiwan's money laundering law. This is where it gets kind of interesting, and I will, hopefully, this is my reading of it, I guess. My reading of it is what I just said, but anyways. So, Providing virtual asset or third-party payment services without registration or issuing stablecoins without authorization would be classified as specified offenses under the law, allowing money laundering penalties to apply to proceeds from these activities, according to CNA. The amendment will be sent to the Legislative Yuan for review before they can take effect. The draft will also define a beneficial owner as the person who ultimately owns or controls a client, transaction, or legal entity. Regulators would be authorized to set procedures for identifying and inspecting beneficial owners. Government agencies could access information on fines imposed on financial institutions and designated non-financial businesses when needed to prevent money laundering. Banks and virtual asset service providers could also share information with other institutions to combat money laundering and terrorist financing. It's always framed in the same way. But anyways, what does this mean? Maybe your read of this is a little different than mine, but providing virtual asset or third-party payment services without registration would be classified as an offense under the law and allowed to be fined as if they are money laundering institutions. So, backing up, essentially, my read of this is if you don't KYC your exchange or your Bitcoin crypto firm, then it sounds like the Taiwanese government can just wholesale accuse you of money laundering, whether you are or you aren't, or whether they have found any facts on the matter of you actually money laundering, whether they have built a case on you for allowing money laundering. It's almost like a soft attempt to continue to not only clamp down on Bitcoin and crypto assets, but obviously a way to essentially try to get all of the Taiwanese exchanges and Bitcoin companies under the control of the CCP. So, I mean, okay, under the control of the Taiwanese government, which is two nations, one law, it's essentially the CCP. I know they're saying like, hey, what Taiwan does, CCP is not under their control, but mainland China, you know, the Taiwanese government likes to view themselves as independent. Mainland China views them subservient to their laws. So maybe this is a test bed for things to come down the line from the mainland China legislation. But it sounds like, hey, if you don't KYC with us, we can just say you're money launderers. China doesn't like Bitcoin. Now, the stablecoin one is like way more obvious. I know there's been talks about and there is some, but like a further push for Chinese yuan-backed stablecoins. Obviously, they want to compete with the stablecoin market, which is dollar-backed, which is heavily led by not just American companies, but is pretty much controlled wholly by Tether. They're like the biggest, best company in the world, or most profitable company in the world. So you understand that move a little bit, but again, it's still the same thing. It's essentially saying, hey, if you don't register with us, like you're a money launderer and we can just accuse you of financing terrorists, maybe that's not too far of a stretch. If you're anti-American and you think that everything that's done with the dollar is terrorism and money laundering, honestly, no. I'm an American. I'm a proud American. But they can make a pretty good case there. They can make a pretty good case. Anyways, on to I can't see my notes. Oh man. All right. Anyways, on top of this, dude, Tether truthers in disbelief, guys. Tether truthers in disbelief. So Paolo tweeted yesterday. Win Tether audit now. Today, Tether announces its first full financial audit for Tether conducted by KPMG US, which resulted in an unqualified clean opinion, marking the highest result possible. An unqualified opinion is the best possible audit opinion on an independent auditor can issue. Unqualified in accounting jargon means without reservations, not that the audit was incomplete. So Tether's financial audit, by at least an order of magnitude, is the largest inaugural audit in the history of finance. So, hey, dude, bros, Tether has all their assets. Now, the only reason I'm bringing this up is because if you've been around Bitcoin for years, there's always been the Tether truthers out there, right? There's always this idea. There's always been this idea. Sorry, chat's just distracting me. There's always been this idea that Tether doesn't actually hold the assets that they claim, and that the entire crypto market is a house of cards. Now Tether is fully audited, and what are the Tether truthers going to say now? Because Circle, which is pretty sure Coinbase, and the other very small stablecoin companies, as we've seen throughout this clarity process, have been doing whatever they can to undermine Tether. And I'm not even like, I don't hold stablecoins. The only thing that I can say about stablecoins as a Bitcoin maxi, which gets probably a lot of people angry, is we have to acknowledge the fact that a lot of people want to use Tether. A lot of people want to use dollar-based stablecoins. A lot of people essentially want to use digital dollars. Now, obviously, from a purely Bitcoin maxi perspective, we all assume that people would leave their fiat currencies and go straight into Bitcoin. That hasn't played out as we all thought it would. A lot of people, actually, was it in this release here? Or was it in Paolo's tweet? I think it's in Paolo's tweet. All right, this was pretty crazy. So I'm gonna read the whole thing and point out an interesting thing. So Tether created the stablecoin industry with USDT in 2014, revolutionizing the whole financial industry. Today, everyone talks about stablecoins, yet it all started 12 years ago with a tiny team and a big mission. We were there when no one else could understand the disruptive potential of what we invented. Our company has evolved into one of the most financially significant and operationally sophisticated private companies in the world. This audit demonstrates that our financial infrastructure and governance have evolved alongside that responsibility. Today, more than 650 million users across all emerging markets continue to rely on Tether daily, choosing USDT as their currency for their life savings, for the commerce, for the future of their children. These are people that have been left behind by the traditional financial system, and they trust our company to remain resilient amidst all the global uncertainty that plagues the world. The proof of that stability is no longer just a Tether promise. It is now an independent side opinion. Anyways, the reason I read this, 650 million users. That's a huge user base, right? I think the numbers for the US that get thrown around is like 150 million crypto users. There's not, oh, sorry, I didn't pull it up. There's not that many. Oh, you can see it, but here, 650 million. That's crazy. So again, we all had the thesis that the majority of people would leave their fiat currencies of choice or fiat currencies of their country, and they would go straight into Bitcoin. That hasn't played out. People would much rather have, at least in the time being, digital dollars. 650 million users is crazy. Again, it's somewhere between 100, 150 million in the US that are, quote, crypto users. I'd venture to guess that some of them, probably a good portion of them, are Tether users. So there's a lot less Bitcoiners out there in the world than you might imagine. I've been saying for a while, there's not that many of us. There's not that many Bitcoiners that understand what they're holding. Yes, maybe we have a very loud minority, but the majority of people that are Bitcoin or shitcoin adjacent, way outnumber the hardcore Bitcoiners. Tether passes an audit, independent official audit. Tether truthers in disbelief. I actually saw, if you've been around for a while, then you might know this name, the Bitfinex. Bitfinex, I think, was tweeting. You know, he's been tweeting for years saying Tether doesn't have their reserves. You know, Tether's the Ponzi that backs Bitcoin. Once Tether blows up, Bitcoin market cap and price is going to collapse. And I think he tweeted out yesterday, he's like, you know, now that Tether passed the audit, like, I don't even care anymore. It doesn't matter anymore. I don't even care. It doesn't matter. Tether truthers in disbelief. Guys, the world wants digital dollars. You want some Hopium Opti? I don't know if I got it for you today. I'll give you some Hopium. We'll give it some Hopium. All right. We're going to wrap up today's show. I got one last segment for you guys. I'll be right back.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technologies. Fueled by clean energy across 3 continents, HIVE runs dual engines, Bitcoin mining and AI compute. Their AI platform is ranked #1 in the world for network performance, and it's doing something bigger than compute. It's accelerating human discovery, the science, the breakthroughs, pushing humanity further and faster. Listed on the NASDAQ with the ticker HIVE. Catch the latest buzz at HIVE Digital Tech on X or HIVEdigitaltech.com.
Sovereignty isn't just about your money. It's about your communications too. When the grid goes down, cell towers can fail. Hurricanes, cyber attacks, blackouts. Most people go dark. Satellite phones don't rely on local infrastructure. With Iridium, 77 satellites in orbit, you can stay connected across the U.S., even offshore. If you hold your own Bitcoin keys, you should hold your own comms too. Sat123 also has Starlink, battery backups, Faraday bags for your hardware wallets, and everything you need to build your own off-grid Bitcoin citadel. Go to sat123.com/simply and use promo code simply for 15% off anything in the store. Okay, before I go on, someone reminded me of the Bitcoin Battlefield website. I found it on break, and it is kind of leaning into the story. All right, so shouts out to the Zoomers behind the Simply Bitcoin account. I was talking with Luke this morning, and he was like, yo, did you notice that the 10 a.m. slam is back on the table? I'm like, no, is it? I haven't really noticed. And he's like, yeah, dude, it's back on the table. And then we were just bullshitting. And he's like, yo, the Twitter team caught on to it. So here is the Twitter Zoomers on the ball. And they're going, Bitcoin keeps building strength overnight and getting sold every time U.S. trading hours open 4 days straight now. It ran to 64K on cooler PPI data, then dropped straight to 62.8 the moment the U.S. session started. Meanwhile, spot ETFs just posted their first back-to-back outflow days since late July. We can see here they marked them. So, 10 a.m. slams are back on the table. What mean, sir? What mean? I got some conspiracy theories. Here. But you can see the last 4 days, right when the U.S. session's open, we're getting slammed, boys. Someone, I don't know if it's Jane Street anymore. Someone is trying to keep the Bitcoin price down, which makes me pretty bullish because we are at 63K. The sellers are winning today, though, guys. Sellers are winning. Bitcoin Battlefield. Dude, I'm so colorblind. Oh, here we go. Sellers are winning today. Bitcoin. All right, bitcoinbattlefield.com. Anyways, why do I find this interesting? Just with that given, that idea, there is someone in the market right now. There is a big entity in the market right now that is trying to suppress the Bitcoin price. Well, maybe not necessarily. Suppress might not be the best word choice, but there's someone that's trying to dump the Bitcoin price as we speak. Even though we're seeing pretty good buys come back in, we aren't really seeing the spot demand pick up as much as we would hope to really confirm the end of a bear market. I saw, again, I think I mentioned this yesterday, but the crypto quant head guy essentially was showing a chart. Maybe I'll pull it up. He was saying that the market is being driven right now by futures. And what you would want to see a turnaround would be that you see futures and spot start to pick up. But where we currently stand, futures is leading. Hold on. What is this guy's name? Is it Kuhn something? Ki Young Lee? Oh, there he is. Ki Young Ju. Ki Young Yu? Ki Young Yu. Forgive me, brother. Forgive me. Here we go. So this was 11th. What's that? Wednesday? Tuesday. So Bitcoin is futures driven. Oh, wait. Yeah, Bitcoin is futures driven right now. Open interest is rising while on-chain spot demand remains net negative. A sustainable rally needs both spot and futures demand. As April showed, futures-led rallies tend to fade without spot support. So what we're seeing is obviously we're not necessarily seeing the spot demand right now that would, without a doubt, confirm that we are out of the bear market. But we are seeing the 10 a.m. slam again. So, and Bitcoin's still at 63K. Again, the price points that I've been saying we're watching all week. Here, maybe dude, we're going to chart boy. You wanted some hopium? We're chart boying a little bit. Price points that I've been watching all week. I don't know if you guys saw my Twitter yesterday, but we kind of got beat up a little bit when we kissed down towards, where was 62.7. It's somewhere between like 62 and 62.5. If we break below that, one last leg confirmed. So over the weekend, the prices we're watching is, can they push the price down under 62 or even just kind of kissing 62? Because we have seen interesting phenomenon on both sides of the Bitcoin price, where essentially every time it goes up to 65K, you see a dump. So that would probably, just making a very simple guess, someone does not want to see the Bitcoin price above 65K right now, because again, the range I'm looking at is 62 to 65-ish. Maybe under 62. Confirmed, we're going lower. One last leg, confirmed. We get above 66, like if it hits 66, or rather, if it closes above 66, then we know for a fact everyone that's waiting until October is probably wrong. So it's an interesting time right now. One, someone is trying to smash the price. They don't want it to run yet. Every time it hits 65, it gets pushed back down. Now we're seeing at U.S. market open, someone is trying to push the price down. But can they get it under 62 is the real question. Now, obviously, the spot demand isn't that good right now. We need, again, more people buying Bitcoin. Now, look, obviously, our $100 a day DCAs, it means a lot to us. But that's not what's driving the price right now, boys. Okay, so either way, we are getting good positions right now, but we aren't the ones driving the price. So it is interesting what we're seeing on the chart. We'll go back to the battlefield just because it's fun and it's Friday. Oh, someone dropped a nuke. Sellers winning today, still at 63. Someone's trying to dump on our head, boys. There is a battlefield playing out right now. We'll be watching over the weekend. Hold your horses. Buckle up. It could get fun. Hey, you asked for this. You asked for the fun. Are you having fun? Are you not entertained? Are you having fun playing with your Bitcoins? No, I'm not. I'm tired, boss. I'm tired. I'm losing my mind. But it's coming. All right, we're getting closer to the make or break. We're getting closer to the make or break. I was able to get DCA order to go through at 62.5 this morning. Let's go, dude. Hey, everyone throw an 07 in the chat for Down Under Blues. He saved us from going below 62. AI trading bots battling out right now, dude, for reals. $100K. We never look back. Last chance to get Bitcoin for 5. I don't know. You've been nothing but pessimistic all day. Hey, look. Discuss the stages of grief off T because I'm at the end. Me too. Bear market eyes? No, dude, this is actually, it's not bear market eyes. All right, it's Friday, so we'll do a little story time, guys. Yesterday after the show, I like, I don't know what's going on, but like, I don't know if I'm like getting sick or something, but I had the worst headache Tuesday, like all day, just migraine, basically, like pressure behind my eyes. I was dying. I went home and I napped. Wednesday, same thing, still some pressure. I'm like, I need to go chill. Yesterday, I'm like, you know what? Maybe I could get some dopamine from getting some good food. I went and got 7 tacos. I got some birria tacos, some pastor, some carnitas, drenched them with salsa. I eat up. I finally get home around like 4-ish, 5. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna chill on the couch and digest. I wake up at like midnight. Literally pass out at like 5. I wake up at like 12:30. I'm like, what the hell happened? Like, what is going on? I probably finally got to bed around like 4 in the morning. So I got like 10 hours last night. I'm like, all right, I'm starting to feel a little better. So this isn't bear market eyes. This is just low energy, bro. I'm just cooked right now. All right. I'm cooked, but we're showing up. We're going to be here. The headache was you didn't block black back bip knots. What? Tracy, I have electrolytes. I do a lot of electrolytes. All right. But yeah, my head was hurting, guys. Yeah, that's a funny comment. No, that's not what happened. All right. You guys are funny. Commander Opti loves the smell of paintballs. I don't know what that means. Yo, you guys are funny. Wait, all right. All right. I'm done. All right, I'm done. I don't even know what Rumble is talking about. I'm regretting being compromised and not backing BIP 110. I'm regretting not backing the chain that stalled after 2 blocks. I'm backing the chain that literally you can't transact on. What are you talking about? Dude. Hey, have fun with your fork. I'm going to have fun playing with my Bitcoins. You have fun playing with Bitcoin Luke's vision. Hey, I'm fine. My node still runs. When's your next block, bro? When's your next block? Yo, Chris, chill. Chill, bro. Chill. All right, guys. All right. I'll see you guys on Monday, man. I hope you guys have a good weekend. Now I'm on. All right, we're done. I'm like lagging. I don't know what's going on. All right. Peace out. Have a good weekend. I'm having technical difficulties here. 2A3 Dex. What's up, bro? I should have backed it. Dude. What are you talking about? No, I chose my bed. All right. My computer's, I don't know. All right. Peace out, guys. I'll see you tomorrow. Or sorry, I'll see you on Monday. Have a good rest of your day. I hope you have a good weekend. All the things that I usually say. Love you. Peace out.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.